Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Reviving Mississippi. I'm your host, DeKeither Stamps. We got Mr. Sherry Jones backstage. He about to come up in just a second. How you doing, Mr. Jones?
Good evening, Brother Stamps. Staying safe, slipping and sliding when I got to, but other than that, I'm trying to stay out the way.
Well, we appreciate you for taking a little time to be on with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, as we open every show, we always talk about, ask you to remember those people who are going through bereavement. Bereavement is a very serious thing to deal with, and especially in moments of layers of tragedy and situations and life going on. Be a friend so you can have a friend in your time of need, because people are leaving here every day, and we have to make sure that we be that support system that people can have lean on, because that's what really throws everything off, is when you don't have that support system. So be a friend to folks who are going through bereavement, who are going through trying circumstances, and even after the circumstances are over, let's just make sure that we reach back out to people to make sure that we are helping people out that week after, that month after, as we move forward. Mr. Jones, you got some opening remarks?
DeKeither, just people don't need to be moving around unless absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Do what they got to do, but if not, stay put. It'll warm up in a few days, but these conditions are absolutely serious. We live in a part of the country where people don't prepare for it because we don't see it, but every so often. So now is not no time to be out moving around unless absolutely necessary.
Totally right. We're going to talk about this a little later in the show. Mr. Jones, we tried to have an emergency preparedness symposium a few months ago. Could you just tell the people about that effort to hopefully try to get some more participation as we move forward?
Well, the key that we as a people, it's just human nature. You don't want to do things that you don't expect to happen. When you talk about emergency preparedness, so many times we think about, tornadoes or stuff that we see on a more regular basis. But if you would have told people that we'd be shut down from a snow blizzard in Jackson in mid-February, it'd been hard to get people to believe that. But nevertheless, what we need to do moving forward is a better job of expecting these times to happen. The basic stuff that you talk about, having a backpack with supplies in it. But that comes from military training, DeKeither. You know what you need to survive. And you talk about, well, I can't get food for 2 or 3 days. I went in a store yesterday and it looked like, it had been robbed because you didn't see anything on the shelf. But keep in mind now, no matter whether it's Walmart or Viles or Kroger's, there is no trucks, DeKeither, moving. We take for granted truck drivers. You don't see them, up and down the highway. You see the rigs moving. But I think now we know how essential it is for truckers, because without them, our shelves will be looking like they're looking, and that's bare. But I think we need to do a better job, especially I go back to our churches. There are some things that I'm a firm believer should be taking place when you congregate, other than telling people about coming to Jesus. Right? Jesus is still here today. He's still real today. But most people need some milk and bread and eggs. And that's going to come from training that we start to do in our churches and different organizations.
Yep. So as we move forward, there's some background. But as we move forward, what we're going to try again is we try to have a community emergency response training to get people inside of neighborhoods, churches, and other organizations to go through that CERT training, so that when FEMA, MEMA, and other organizations come to address tragedy, they have more trained people inside of neighborhoods and inside of communities, because our community is worse off in times of tragedy because of the lack of preparation of people inside the community. Last time we had that training a few months ago, only 7 people showed up, and we appreciate the fire department, all those agencies that showed up. But hopefully this time, this is let people know how serious life can get in a very short period of time, and we can move forward to try to be a little more prepared. Our sponsors for every show, or this show, are Micheal Jordan Transportation Service. Micheal Jordan Transportation Service is a wonderful transportation service that works all over Mississippi. They offer transportation for all ages, but they specialize in folks who are developmentally challenged and senior citizens to help them get around safely, especially in times like this. They have situations of coronavirus and other things like that. They have safe, clean vehicles, that they have the proper protocols in place to help keep folks safe while they're being transported effectively. You can go to mjstransportation1.com. That's mjstransportation1.com. And also for employment, they're growing so fast that they're always recruiting new people to expand in several different areas, because transportation is an issue not just in Jackson but all over. And Micheal Jordan Transportation Services at mjstransportation1.com. Great to meet those needs. This show, we're going to start off, we're going to have an update from some nurse practitioners who have an update about legislation that they're trying to move through the process. We're going to talk about emergency preparedness after that. And then, backed by popular demand, Mr. Jones, for the 4th week in a row, people want to continue that conversation about manhood. So we're not at the radio station tonight, so that gives us a little bit more flexibility, but we don't have the call-in operation. So if you want to make a comment, you can make your comments on this in the comment space, and we'll bring them up just like Mr. Timothy Brown's comment there, and we'll be able to address it from there. We still don't filter comments, so whatever you want to comment, we bring it on, and we do the best we can to answer your question. Mr. Jones, you brought to my attention the issue. Well, I already knew about the issue, but you brought a young lady who wants to talk about nursing, and we have Miss Carolyn Coleman. You want to introduce her and to the show, Mr. Jones?
Well, she's a part of Nurse Practitioner Association. There she is. She got that internet straight.
I think I got it right.
That's what we're looking for. And DeKeither, the reason it touched my heart is my wife for the past 2 or 3 days has been transported to the hospital. When I woke up and saw the conditions outside, I said, "Well, baby, you just don't need to go." She said, "No, I got to go." That's the heart and the mind of nurses and nurse practitioners. And when I read some of the information about what they got going on, I think we need to get all boots on the ground, get ready to support this issue, because it's shocking to me. First of all, they got to even be straining to try to get this legislation passed. But more importantly, we need to be supporting them always, but now especially on the back end of this virus. So, Ms. Coleman, we wanted to have you on live at WNPR 90.1 because of the weather, but Mr. Stamps is a soldier, so he's always on the battlefield. But as we move forward, we certainly want to let you know that we'll be a platform for you, also putting troops on the ground to support this work that you all are trying to do. Because part of the thing that touched my heart is you all spend more time with us as patients and people than most doctors do. So, we thank God for you all. Share with our listeners, introduce to what you all are trying to get done.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you all for having us, and thank you all for allowing us this platform to talk about nurse practitioners. We are one of the largest groups right now providing medical care. We provide primary medical care to patients, especially in the rural areas. And what we're looking for is we're not looking to do anything more than what we're doing right now. And some of the information that's been put out there says that we're looking for scope of practice change. We're not looking for a scope of practice change. What we're asking to do is to be able to go to work, do what we do now, but not have to pay this costly contract that we have to contract with the physicians to do. We're asking to be able to work to our level of education and provide the care that we've been providing anyway. Nurse practitioners provide some excellent care around the state. And the only thing we're asking to do right now, for me to go to work, I have to have a contract with a physician. And And what the contract says is that we'll collaborate with the physician. We just feel like we're going to collaborate with physicians regardless. And we don't need a contract that we have to pay for to be able to collaborate. I have a collaborative physician that we pay. I pay roughly, I'm going to say about $1,500 a month for this collaborative physician. If I'm in my clinic and something goes wrong, if I need a physician in my clinic, say someone comes in and they have a heart problem, and I recognize that, I call my cardiologist and I say, hey, I have a patient over here in this clinic. I need you to see this patient. I don't have a contract with him, nor do I pay him for that. The physician that's on my contract is normally not the physician that I call. And what we're paying them for is not supervision. They're not in the clinic to supervise us. They're not in the clinic looking over our shoulders and telling us what to do. We're making these decisions. We're treating these patients. We're writing our own prescriptions. What they're saying that they do is review our charts, and they review either 10% or up to 20 charts, which if I see you today, if I treat you and you go home, him reviewing your record a month later or 2 months later, how's that adding quality to the care that I've already given you? So those are things that we're asking to be released from.
You know, I appreciate you coming on and having a brief explanation. It's a little more exhaustive than that, but when this came up, it was a pretty contentious issue. You know, anytime that you're changing the delivery of healthcare in the state of Mississippi, it's a contentious issue. And no disrespect to any doctor or anybody, because it takes everybody.
Exactly.
We can't administer proper healthcare in Mississippi without doctors, without nurses, without nurse practitioners, so forth and so on.
We agree.
The reason that I supported this measure, and then, like I said, it was a pretty contentious measure because they have pretty strong lobbying efforts, and when you're trying to do something different, because we identified that we're not able to get enough doctors around the state. And so when we have situations where we have medical professionals who are already practicing to the scope of their training and ability, well, how can we create a mechanism to allow more of them to do more? Because and yours was on your contract's on the low end. I've heard people that pay more than double that of what you pay. And so if we can get more, and another $1,500 a month will change your whole operation inside your business, which will be able to allow you to have better care. And then if there's an issue that comes up, speak to people, talk about quality of care and things go wrong. Well, what happens when there's an issue that comes up where a nurse practitioner may not have made the right call or right decision? What are the ramifications that will be in place if this passes?
The same ramifications that are in now. Just say something goes wrong. We have a board of nursing, and our board of nursing, they are monitoring what we do. They're monitoring our practice and the things that we do. So if there's a nurse practitioner that's out there that's not doing the right thing, they're reported to the board of nursing. Nursing is the one that handles all of that, and we're not asking to change that. We want board of nursing there. We're not asking to change collaborate. We want to collaborate with our doctors. We want them there. We need our doctors, just like you said. I need to be able to call a physician and say, hey, this is outside of my scope. Can I send this patient to you? I need that person there. So we're not asking not to collaborate with them. What we are asking to do is do away with the contract that say I have to collaborate. And not that we have to collaborate. We're going to do that anyway. But the contract collaborate with several different doctors. And it's usually not the one that we're on contract with.
You know, so as we look at this and look at creative ways to bring healthcare to rural areas, like for me, Utica and Terry and Raymond, you know, I know plenty of nurse practitioners that if they were able to save those fees, could be able to open up a clinic in Utica. Because the money they save from the fee is enough to pay for the office space in Utica. You know, so go ahead.
Another part of that, what you talked about, is the number of physicians that we have to collaborate with. Just for somebody who want to open a clinic in Utica or Raymond, you got to find that physician within the 75-mile radius that's willing to collaborate with you. I'm just going to tell a personal story of mine, because I was driving up into the Delta. I've been in the rural areas of the Delta doing psychiatric mental health care up there. And I was doing like physicals for a lot of DHS children in that area. Well, there was a period of time when the physician that I was contracting with, he lost his license. It had nothing to do with me, nothing I had done. But for 3 weeks, my kids could not get their ADHD medicines. I could not do those, see those kids that were in DHS custody that required a psych eval. For 3 weeks, we couldn't do that. And we went to the Board of Medical Licensure and tried to get another physician on my contract, but she was over the 75-mile radius. And even though they tell you they'll approve over 75-mile radius, the process that we have to go through is so tedious that it was going to take us 6 months to even get it through, to get it approved. And these kids can't go without their medication that period of time. So not only that, we eventually were able to find another physician. Then they're not board certified. We have to be board certified. If they're not board certified, certain insurances, we can't get approved to get payment from those insurance because the physician is not board certified. So there are a lot of issues that go along with this contract.
Mr. Stamps, let me ask you this. You mentioned earlier about the lobbyists, their position with respect to this legislation. You know, and I'm concerned about this. I'm concerned about lobbyists at our Mississippi State Capitol as strong as I am about title loan places or even temp services in our community. I know we're working with people now to employ them, and we've been able to get a contract recently where we can put people to work, but we had delayed it for more than a year because we refused to go through a temp service. It sounds to me like there's not much difference between what the Nurses Association is dealing with. You know, they got to have a contract with a doctor. And at the end of the day, Ms. Coleman, I tell people, it all comes down to the end. So we can start with the fact that you're required to pay somebody, and then they're not providing a whole lot of structure or benefit. But DeKeither, on the lobbyist side, how do we address this issue where people are paying lobbyists and lobbyists are influencing our elected officials?
Well, this session is a little bit different than the normal session. Can y'all see me? Hear me? Am I breaking?
Yeah, you're good.
You're frozen, but I can see you.
Like I'm lagging a little behind. Okay. Well, this session is a little bit different than normal session because we have a situation where we don't have a lot of after duty activities going on. But you know, lobbying is always a good key, and there's nothing wrong or nothing against it. It's just that right now we have to put ourselves in a position to expand healthcare. Since we can't get the expansion of Medicaid and some other things in place, we have to look at some ways where how we're going to solve the problem. And she brought up one major issue is that what if you don't have a doctor within 75 miles of some of these rural areas to offer the service, and those people go without structurally by law. The structure will be set up for them to not have the appropriate health care that everyone deserves. So this whole thing is really the next of just how can we get better health care in more places, and then allow these boards and commissions like the Board of Nursing to do their job and govern those people who are practicing those practices.
Okay,
so Ms. Coleman,
let me ask Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman, have your association been able to have a big lobbyist firm to represent you all?
We do have a lobbyist firm to represent us. We do. As you know, nurses don't make what doctors make. So the nurse's money does not match up to the doctor's money, but we do have a lobbyist firm that represents us.
Okay. All right. Moving forward, certainly, again, we want to know, we got organizations across the state that we work
and they have a good firm. They don't have a run-of-the-mill firm. They have a good firm representing them as well.
We do.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Ms. Stamps, are you back here?
We do.
Okay.
So
yeah, okay. So Ms. Coleman, just give some parting words about the legislation. The bill is over towards the Senate. And so what are you asking the people to do?
We're asking the people to contact your senators and please support the nurse practitioners. We're out here, we're doing a job, we're educated. We're already doing the job. We're not asking to do anything different tomorrow that we're not doing today, except have to have that contract us and having that contract prevent us from working. That's the only thing we're asking. Other than that, we're not asking to go out and perform brain surgery tomorrow. We're not asking to do that or any other kind of surgery. We're only asking to be able to work within our scope of practice to our level of education and do the things we're already doing. To be able to do one other little personal story. I've had several of them. I had a chance where just to do physicals. I had kids here in Jackson. And I couldn't do it because the doctor was going to charge me more money than I was going to make in a month. But it doesn't, I can do a physical on a child. I don't need a doctor to show me how to do a physical. I learned how to do it. That's within my scope of practice. And I shouldn't have to pay that contract to be able to do what I learned how to do in school.
Okay. DeKeither, real quick, let me ask you this. You were one of the newest elected officials there at the state capitol. When you saw this piece of legislation, what made you, as an elected official, support this legislation?
So for me, I'm a policy nerd. You know this. I read everything and I do as much research as I can. And I read through it and I sat back in my seat and I said, man, this is gonna piss some people off. That was the first thing that came to mind. And I calculated it out and I said, you know what? What better way to does anybody have a better idea to get healthcare in Terry, Utica, and Rankin? And I talked to a few people. I called folks on both sides of the issue, heard them out. I got a call from their lobbyists, and we sat down and talked about it. I came by and sat down with a few of them one evening and discussed the issue briefly. It was a short meeting. I had another one to go to right after that. So, and I had to move on. But as I looked through and thought about it, you know, I weighed it out. You know, I weighed it out and said, you know, what's the better thing for the people I represent? And that's what really pushed this down the road for a lot of House members, is that they represent rural places. Places don't have a healthcare clinic, stuff like that. So, and I represent places like, you know, Utica and Terry, and that's what pushed my vote in support of this measure.
And DeKeither, I've seen you in the clinic. I treated you. Did you get poor care from me?
Okay.
So,
and I had experienced it. I had gone to places that had a nurse practitioner only, you know, so I just know that we have a better chance of getting a nurse practitioner to open up shop in Utica than anybody else. And if we can get a nurse practitioner in Utica, it's going to be a game changer. Same thing about Terry.
That's right.
Okay. Ms. Coleman, thank you so much. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just look forward to working with you on the issue. What I would like to have is a list of those elected officials. You know, like Councilman Stamps had no idea this afternoon when we started communicating it, I just felt like, I wanted to introduce him to this, and he told me he had already supported it. So I would love to get a list of those elected officials that's, supporting it, and those that's not supporting it, if we can.
Right. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Legislation up and let to see
it. Right. So ask all your senators to support HB 1303. House Bill 1303, HB 1303. So,
okay.
So
all right. Any last word?
I appreciate you having us on here.
Your organization that will support this effort. How do they do that?
They can look us up on Facebook. It's look up where you can Google Mississippi Association of Nurse Practitioners. It's MSANP.org. So Mississippi Association of Nurse Practitioners.
Okay.
Website and all the information is there.
Well, thanks a lot, ma'am. You're welcome to come back any Wednesday night. And in the future, hopefully we'll be back in the radio station next week.
Okay. Well, let me know. I'll be happy to come.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Well, Mr. Jones, that was another. They put me right into the fire on this thing. When I sat down in my first session, you got these two sides trying to argue, but my saving grace is always vote my constituency. I always vote the people that vote for me. What would they want to need, and that that makes a contentious issue easy, and to make a decision over. So that's kind of how I make my decision making process.
Well, I'm interested in this, DeKeither. We work in a lot of the rural areas. We was up in the Mississippi Delta. Certainly, anytime you can get nurse practitioners in your community, you're gonna benefit. And when we talk about the lobbyists, I don't know if you want to take her out of the picture, but if when we look at this lobbyist thing, DeKeither, the reason it concerns me is, if money is driving our laws and our legislation, it leaves the poor people that's not able to raise that kind of money or pay the lobbyists that kind of money to a great disadvantage. So, moving forward, it's going to be important for us to look at who's spending the money and how elected officials are being affected by that money. And I think we need to deal with that at the ballot box.
Well, anytime somebody does not represent their district, that's up to the people to make a decision over. But it wasn't as contentious when it got to the floor. But some people pushed against it. But we're gonna keep going through the process and make it better. And I look forward to continue to going through the process to help making all these things better. So that was how it was, but it was a couple more. We had a bill with optometrists and ophthalmologists. There are certain services that optometrists practice that they have to refer over to ophthalmologists, and so we voted for a measure to allow them to practice in the scope of their training without having to go to an ophthalmologist. So we're looking at creative ways to deliver healthcare in a way that people have been trained. So we don't want untrained people administering healthcare, but we want to expand everyone who has the capacity of administering healthcare into some places that have been to the underserved areas, because we are looking at a crisis when it comes to the death toll of bad health and people not having access to quality healthcare. So, so it's just going to be critical that we move forward with this. And many other measures like it in order to get folks to healthcare.
We got a collaboration, DeKeither, between about 7 doctors. Dr. Barnes is one of them. And the purpose of that is to go ahead and start getting some things in place that we know for a fact that would change the health in the African American community. Interesting enough, when you start talking about this, when you look at what the state of Mississippi, what diabetes is causing the state of Mississippi, that in itself could bankrupt, the state. And we got a young lady in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, that we're going to be using as a model. She's been able to reverse her diabetes, DeKeither, get off medicine, insulin, and then also her 87-year-old mother. She was able to get her diabetes reversed, and now she's working with her church. So we can absolutely be doing some things a little bit better here in the state as we move forward. So, but look, let me say this. I think what's also incumbent up on us is to put some fresh new faces in them chairs up there at the Mississippi State Capitol. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Oh, you want to kick everybody out all the time.
Not all at one time. Not all at one time.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to switch my camera here because I got my phone is messing up here. Let me see if I can get this to work right. All right. Can you hear me?
Man, you getting to be a bad brother with StreamYard.
Yeah, I had to switch up a little bit. My phone was messing up. My computer is not acting right, and I had to switch up a little bit. But to move forward and to move forward effectively, we're going to have to make some changes when it comes to being emergency prepared and have our things in place. A few months ago, we tried to have an emergency preparation training to make sure communities are resilient, and that resiliency is going to be important. It was called a CERT training, Community Emergency Response Team Initiative, and it was partnership with several organizations, your organization, FEMA, MEMA, Fire Department, the City of Jackson. We're trying to stand this up, and ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be critical that people start getting more in tune to emergency preparedness. While you're at home, you're watching different things on the internet. You're watching different things on different. Pull up some videos from emergency preparation. Pull up some things like that to help you learn how to be more prepared. And as soon as you can get safely to start getting your stuff together, it just takes you buying a little more every time that you go to the grocery store. So if you normally use, one bottle of dishwashing liquid a month, buy two. Cut back on something else that may be a luxury until you get your emergency preparation things in order to make sure your family's safe. And that's what it takes. It folds right into our topic that we've been talking about every week about manhood. And we talk about manhood from a standpoint that men's job primarily is to provide and protect. And if you're not providing the extra resources your family needs and protecting them from emergency situations, that goes against the purpose of you even being here as a man. So what we're saying is that nothing against women, again, nothing against our sisters and the contributions that they make to our lives, but as men, it's incumbent upon men to make good decisions and help safeguard their family from tragedy, right? That's just part of it. Ain't it right, Mr. Jones?
DeKeither, I want to share with you something. In this weather, I want to show you how this could work. My wife is a first responder, and the first day I took her to work, and it was just absolutely too dangerous to be trying to navigate in there. So we got a young brother that's in our network, and DeKeither, he got one of those real trucks like you. You lock it in, and then you take your time, and it'll crawl over that ice.
Mm-hmm.
So I employed the young man to transport my wife safely back and forth to work.
Mm-hmm.
So they trying to figure out how she getting back and forth to work, and she told them. Now, guess what this young man has been doing, DeKeither?
What's that?
Transporting nurses back and forth to work. Now,
A whole
what am I
business
saying?
in a tragedy.
What am I saying? This young man got an opportunity in this crisis when people locked in because of what, though, DeKeither? Because he's prepared, right?
That's right. That's right.
First of all, he got a good driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
He's got insurance, and he's got a vehicle that can navigate this hazardous environment. So when most people are sitting around on lockdown, this young man has been moving. Those that need to get to work, not people just out sightseeing, but those that need to get from point A to point B. And he has been busy as a bee. And the thing about it is, DeKeither, he's just shocked with the income that he's able to generate. You
That's
know, and he told me, he said, "Well, Mr. Jones, no. I said, "No." I said, "Young man, let me explain to you. There's no amount that's too much because you transported a priceless cargo."
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? And I know you value it the same way. You know, if she got to go, you want to make sure that she is traveling safe. But I said that to say that's the position that we need to begin to put ourselves in. Because, Mr. Stamps, when we had that training, it was about an earthquake, possibly, or another hurricane. Now, to keep at that time, none of us knew that you were going to need a thermal suit.
Right.
You know, but that's what so my point is, the emergency could be something that we can't even fathom in our mind. So we need it. And what I want to do also, I would like for you to go ahead and write up something, DeKeither, that we can get on WMPR 90.1 and begin to remind people each week to do this, because we need to keep it in the front lobe of our people brain. Thank you.
You're totally right. So, this past year has been a year of validation for me. For years, my family and some of my friends always said, "Man, you always preparing for the end of the world. You always buying all this extra stuff." And it's not like you go out and buy a lot of stuff. It's just, you just buy a little extra when you do buy it. And then over time, it accumulates, and then you organize it and you get it together, and you use the older stuff first. You don't buy new stuff and then let the old stuff sit in the back of the cupboard. You kind of get a system together where you're using the older, more perishable things, first. And so that's what we talk about, is just about, putting disciplines in place so that you can live more effectively. Just, and I know we're talking about nothing against womanhood, but just as a man and as a woman, if that pertains to you. But we have to be more prepared as a community, and we have to look at some of our ways we spend our own money. And if you can divert some of the more frivolous spending you have into making yourself, more safe. I mean, you can look at the prices of some of the things that's in the stores. I mean, in the gas station down the street, it's selling a gallon of water for $2.50. Because they know that if people's water is out, they don't have the perfect things they do. So before we get off the line today, I just want to talk through a few things that people can do. So if you have water right now, go ahead and take your bath for the night, and then clean the tub out, fill it up with water. So if your water goes out, you can flush your toilet.
Mm-hmm.
If you got some clean jugs that you can put you some water in, go ahead and store you up some water. I always have some jugs in the garage, those 5-gallon jugs that you get when they bring those things. You can save those and use those for emergency preparation. One of the issues that some people politically don't agree with me on is about when I said we need to expand natural gas service. And that's basically, people who talk about fossil fuels and things like that, they don't like it. But I know in Mississippi, if your lights go out and you have electric heat,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to freeze in your house. You're going to literally freeze to death. And it's just last night, your lights went out, right?
DeKeither, let me tell you what happened, though.
Okay.
My son was getting ready to cook his hamburger on the George Foreman grill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard him raise the grill lid up, the lights went out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now to him, the world had come to him, right? But guess what I did? I went in. I asked my wife. I said, "Do you want me to cook his hamburger?" She looked like, "Have you lost your mind?" And I had just lit the fire log to keep it. So now for those that may not be from the country, if you had never heard this before, all you got to do is take a non-stick frying pan, DeKeither, drop the patties in them with a little oil, and put them on top of the fire log, DeKeither. Now, you military, you know, in a few minutes, you're going to be ready for what? The lettuce, tomatoes, and it's a wrap. My point is, you was talking about men. Keep in mind, there's a lot of men right now can't come out the house because they don't know how to survive, you know. But you and I, based upon training and experience and being a truck driver over the years, you know, we can figure out how to move up and down these highways and do it safely. And I just think we need a camp, DeKeither. We need a place in Jackson where we can take these young brothers and they can go and have to stay a week. You know, take the cell phone. They don't need to be tweeting and tweaking.
Now we got a little area now that you can go make a little campground.
We getting there. You know.
Well, I want to just make sure I say a few points for folks to jump off this thing. Is that right now, if you're where you are, I wouldn't suggest anybody go anywhere tomorrow because this rain that you hear tonight
on top of the ice.
Once it freezes, it's going to be just a thin or a thick sheet of ice all over the place. Don't just eat up all your food that you have. Pinch off of it. Just because you got a lot of food in the cupboard, don't mean you just got to have a Thanksgiving dinner. You know, eat you a balanced portions to get you through this. Make sure that if you have some things necessary. Now, one thing that happened in Texas, they told the people that if everybody would reduce your thermostats, we wouldn't have to cut people's lights off. Well, people wouldn't do that. They would still have their thermostats cranked up to 80 and 78. And now they got to go several hours of the day without lights because they have an undisciplined population. Now, Mississippi, put your thermostat. I know it's going to be a little chilly in the house, but that's okay. At least you got lights. Turn your thermostat down to about 68. Put you some long johns on and still maneuver around your house. Lower the electrical load so that they can maintain power for everybody. If we're undisciplined and want to do what we want to do and look after our own personal comfort, you're going to be personally uncomfortable if we have to start doing rolling blackouts to maintain the usage before we won't have these power plants going out of service. And that's what has to happen. That happened in Texas. They have to have rolling blackouts to mitigate the usage to maintain the load on the power plants, because everybody at home, they crank everything up and then it destabilizes the whole infrastructure grid. So again, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you be mindful of the electrical usage you have so that our electrical service providers don't have to resort to some kind of rolling blackout situation so that people can even have power at all. You know, Houston right now, they don't have any power right now because overloading the system. You got that many people on one grid. You know, our electrical grid in America is weak already. And that's why we do a lot of stuff when it comes to emergency preparation. You know, over the 10 years I've been retired, almost 11 years now, it has come to now you have an abundance of preparedness stuff in preparation for this. So I just encourage everyone. I know ready.gov talks about having a week's worth of stuff in place. I say, you know, then I say three days. I say at a minimum, you need to be able to live for 2 weeks in your house. At a bare bones minimum. You know, me personally, I like to be prepared for way beyond 2 weeks or a month. But you need to be able to sustain your life inside of your house without, you know, tragedy gonna come. We shouldn't act like it's not gonna come. We're gonna be in a constant state of tragedy. And so the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. And we have to have that mindset of making sure we're providing and protecting our households and not leaving it up to the government, because leaving up to the government is bad.
we're going to take a personal role in this to make sure we have what we need. You got some final comments for you, Mr. Jones, before we sign off this thing?
DeKeither, if they get a hat and put on like I got on and a sweater like you got on, and they get them a bottle of Windex and some paper towels and start doing the window ceilings in the house and the baseboard, they can turn that thermostat down to about 62. And the rest will be history. Because see, my son was sitting around today and he's on the games and whatever, but it's amazing how many things going undone in the house when we are busy. And you and I, we're moving all the time. But now that I'm locked up here, you might as well, make use of the time. And trust me now, if people having any problem with finding things to do, have them to give me a call. I can give them a list. But look, we're excited. I don't know, this past Friday morning, WMPR 90.1, we're supposed to have HR directors from the Waffle House, Milwaukee Tools, and Ingalls Shipyard. We're going to try to continue to make that Friday morning platform be a platform of putting our people to work, DeKeither, because interesting enough now, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding, Mr. Stamps, that we have not had one homicide in Jackson since this ice storm has had us on lockdown. Do you know if that's accurate?
Well, as far as I know right now, I hear some sirens in the distance outside. I don't know what that situation is.
Somebody slipped in the ditch.
But I do know that if we can just focus on what's important, and times like this make you realize what's important: food, water, shelter. Some of these more frivolous arguments that we have that we get all riled up over may not be as important as maintaining basic existence. And that's what I see. And even this past year, I've seen more people spend more money on things to get them more prepared and keep them safe. So we got to do more of that. We have to make sure that we're making good decisions. And as leadership, and I count everybody as a leader, not just when I say as leadership. When I say, if you are on this side, you're a leader. You leading yourself, you're an example to other people, you're a leader. And as leadership, we have to make sure that we're continually preparing, because if you don't prepare, then you will be subject to the circumstances of the world and letting that dictate and guide your life. And a lot of times it's negative. It leads to death and destruction. But the disciplined people will survive. The undisciplined people will have a tough time in surviving. And at this moment, we're in straight survival mode, because this is not going to be the last tragedy. When this weather first came out, we thought it was going to be 1 or 2 days, and now it's expanded to a week. It could be more than that, but let's make sure we do more than just hoard food. Let's make sure that you are calling into your doctor if you need appropriate medication. Let's make sure we're not being gluttonous just because you got a lot of food in your house. You just cook up everything. No, let's make sure that we are just pinching off the stuff we have. And this is one issue that I lost an election because of this issue right here, Mr. Jones.
Okay.
There are some other reasons, but this is one of the major reasons. When I talk about Mississippi needs to secure and expand natural gas service. Now, politically, as a Democrat, that's a problem, because they always talk about the Green New Deal and eliminating fossil fuels. My reason for pushing natural gas is because the situation that our communities are in. We cannot be all electric, and I don't see us being able to live safely all electric anytime soon. And we need natural gas. We need more of it, because in times like this, when those lights go out, people can, if you got a gas stove and you got gas heaters in your house, you can survive. Out in the country, they may have that little tank out in the backyard, but they got a gas stove and they got some gas heaters in there. and they can survive through the storm, through the issues. If those folks have to be switched to all electric, the lights go out when the wind gusts up bad on a regular day. The delivery system there people are vulnerable to situations. And so when you see people who said stamps don't support the Green New Deal, which you may see, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about eliminating fossil fuels and stuff like that. Or they say, stamps is not supporting us. Well, I'm supporting our reality. And our reality, when I was running for public service commissioner, who regulates those utilities, is that we need natural gas. We need it. And until somebody shows me a better replacement, I'm going to keep saying we need it. And folks who said, well, you need to support the Green New Deal, I'm saying the reality that my people are in, they need heat and they need gas to cook their food in times like this. They cannot depend on the electrical grid. And most of our electric power plants, guess how they make the daggum energy, Mr. Jones?
I'm listening.
They make it with natural gas. They eliminated coal-fired plants, and now they got natural gas plants making the electricity. So if you eliminate the natural gas, where the heck,
everybody in the dark.
Everybody in the dark. So again, it's not that I'm against the environment. I'm a farmer, right? Our whole livelihood is built off the environment, but I'm for our reality. And the reality of our present situation in Mississippi is natural gas is critical to us moving forward and sustaining our.
Well, brother, I want to say this, and we all have it.
So my lights just went off right there, Mr. Jones.
Okay, all right. They hit your grid tonight, not mine. So mine's maybe next.
Y'all stay safe out there. We're gonna keep pushing forward, and y'all have a good night. Mr. Jones, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep pushing forward, and we in the dark over here in South Jackson. So we're gonna keep plugging away. We got some lights back again. Here we go. We got some lights. What you looking at me for?
Well, sound like the council.
We got our lights came back on. What you looking at me for? Shelly came in here like I'm supposed to do something.
Look, I'm gonna leave that alone. My insurance don't cover that. Hey, DeKeither, I'm in with this comment. I run my house. Bye.
Hey man, nah, we off the air right now. We off the air. But
I don't know why my feed's still showing live then.
I don't know, but we're gonna keep working through it, man. Because it's showing live on there, but we're gonna keep working through it. But yeah, man, it's just amazing how things shut down. You gotta be prepared. You gotta be prepared.
We need a game plan, man. We need an agenda.
And we got a game plan. We just need more people to realize that you can't just adopt what other people are doing in other states. We just can't adopt those measures because our reality pulls us into a different space. And our reality is different than some of the people in some of these other national organizations. Our reality is a whole different thing. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. But yeah, man. So you wanna go live tomorrow morning for Power Hour?
No, Lordy.
Oh, you get some sleep now.
Man.
You started enjoying that 6 o'clock.
Monday, Tuesday, the day Wednesday, third. No, Lordy. I'm recalibrating, and they talking about Thursday and Friday, maybe something. I'm gonna be out the whole week.
Yeah, you're gonna be out the whole week, man. This ain't gonna be no short-lived thing.
And my girl started it out Saturday with the pile up with the bus. Man, it been rough ever since.
What bus?
You know, Jackie was in the accident
Oh yeah.
with the city bus, and you know, as if that was bad. I hope she ain't even left out the house since then.
I saw her post something on the internet.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, man. But you know, we're gonna keep pushing forward, man. So but you go ahead and handle your business, man. I'll holler at you on the other end.
We'll see you.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, I'll take